Hi, and welcome to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation focused on youth mental health. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to let you all know that all content that is found in our podcast is created for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard in this podcast. Thank you so much, and without further ado, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving. It is your host Punam here with a very special guest, Vivek Dewan. As you all aware, May is a mental health awareness month. And as far as I understand, it is very important to set up healthy boundaries for our good mental health. Keeping that in mind today, we are going to talk about healthy boundaries and why it is important to define such boundaries. So, welcome, Vivek. I'm looking forward to talking to you. Before I ask you a few questions, please introduce yourself and tell us more about you and what are you doing currently.
Hi Punam, it's so great, so wonderful to be here, and thank you so much for having me. As a professional in this lifetime on this earth plane, I am a certified hypnotherapist, I'm an NLP practitioner, and imaginary facilitator, and I'm a certified master past life regression therapist, and I do a lot of meditation. I'm a meditation practitioner, and they are all modalities of complementary and alternative therapies. And I have a master degree in fine arts, and I'm currently practicing my therapy and enjoying a peaceful life. And I'm a travel and hospitality professional. And if anyone want to contact me, my website is wellnesswithvivek.com, or anybody can follow me on my social media to listen to shorts I put on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.
This is fantastic. Wow. You are so wonderful, doing so many great things. So before I ask you a detailed question about this topic, I would like to ask you a very basic question. What is a healthy boundary?
Healthy boundary is just a limit that we set for ourselves to protect our physical, emotional, mental health, and we can even our spiritual health also. It's a way of saying no to things that you don't want to do, or yes to things that you do want to do. So healthy boundaries help us to feel safe, respected, and in control of our life. And it's a personal limit or guidelines that defines how we interact with others, and how you allow others to treat you, and how you take care of your own needs and well-beings. It's just a way to establish a and maintain a sense of personal self-respect, emotional well-being. So that's like simple way, the healthy boundary we can explain.
That's very interesting. So, what I'm hearing, like there are many different types of healthy boundaries. Can you please share more details? You mentioned emotional, mental, physical. So, what are those boundaries?
So there are like number of boundaries, like different people say different boundaries, but we can have our own guidelines. And there are several type of boundaries we can set in our life. And the common example I can give you, like physical boundaries, or we can have a physical distance, like how you feel comfortable with others, or the level of physical contact you allow, or emotional boundaries to protect your emotional well-being and privacy. Like time boundaries, like involve managing your time and setting limits on how much time you allocate to certain activities or relationship. So this can include creating boundaries around work hours, personal time, commitments you make to ensure you have enough time for your self-care, because that's most important. The activities that are important to you, social boundaries, material boundaries, like you just involve which involves setting limits on the use of sharing your personal belongings, your resources, and being clear on that. Intellectual boundaries, which are respecting and valuing different opinions, ideas, beliefs. So they involve being open to diverse perspective, while also setting limits on conversation that may be disrespectful, offensive, or unproductive. And then we have like sexual boundaries also, which is related to our personal choices and limits regarding our intimacy or consent. And they involve being clear about your comfort levels, communicating your boundaries with your partner, and respecting the boundaries of others also. You need to respect the boundaries of others. So it's a like both side.
Wow, I did not know there are so many types of boundaries anyone can create. So I definitely keep social media boundaries for myself. I am not there
Yes,
on Facebook by choice, and I do not like to spend too much time on social media because I know like I can get carried away. That's not the fear, but is it important for me to spend time, as you were saying, time boundary? So that's what
definitely.
came to, yeah, my mind. So do you think it's helpful to define boundaries when dealing with challenging people, places, things, or situations?
Yeah, definitely. And as you saying about the social media boundary, we can create our own boundaries also in our way. So that's like, we are open to that. So I think it's very helpful to define healthy boundaries when we deal with challenging people or places, things or situations. And these healthy boundaries, we always say the healthy boundaries, not just the boundaries, because it's like it's for our self-worth. Help us to protect ourselves from harm and to maintain our sense of self-respect, our self-worth. They can also help us to avoid feeling overwhelmed or stressed. So these boundaries serve as a guidelines and limit that help protect our well-being, maintain our personal values, establish a sense of self-respect. So setting healthy boundaries can be challenging. It's like hard sometimes. It's a very beautiful essential skill for maintaining your mental and emotional health. And if we are struggling to set boundaries, I mean, it's always take, it's good to seek help. Do not be afraid to or be shy to not to take help. There are so many counselor therapists, people who can support us as when we are learning to protect ourselves and our well-being. So always take help.
Okay, I understand. So there are many benefits as you're explaining for setting healthy boundaries, and we shouldn't be shy to take help. But what happens when we do not have healthy boundaries? So what could be the implications of not having healthy boundaries?
Yes, like when we don't have healthy boundaries, yeah, we are more likely to experience so many things in our life. It's a very important concept these days, like everybody is talking about, and it's very important in our mental health, that we feel very overwhelmed and stress subconsciously. You don't see, but when you don't have those boundaries, you don't even know that you don't have those boundaries. So you feel so much like resentful or angry because we don't set the limits on what we can and we cannot do for others. We can easily be overwhelmed and stressed, and then we feel angry sometimes when we don't set the boundaries. We may start to feel angry towards others because from subconscious mind, like there's something is just bothering us, but we don't show. So it just comes out. We may feel like we're always giving and never getting back anything. We may also start to feel angry at ourselves for not standing up for ourselves. And we feel like we are not good enough. When we don't set the boundaries, we may start like we're not good enough. We may feel like we have to do everything for others in order to loved or accepted. This can lead to low self-esteem and sense of worthlessness. And we feel like everybody is taking advantage of us. We are more likely to be taken advantage by others. People may take advantage of our time, our money, or our emotions, or like our personality. We may also try to they may also try to control us, manipulate us. We feel isolated and alone. So it's very important to develop and maintain healthy boundaries to protect our well-being, have a or maintain a balanced relationship, foster your personal growth and fulfillment. So, setting in healthy boundaries involve learning to identify and communicate our limits, needs, or preferences while also respecting those of others. And seeking support from trusted individual professionals such as therapists can be very helpful in developing and maintaining healthy boundaries. So, we are living in a high tech, like our 21st century. We should be not be shy to take help.
So Vivek, when you were explaining, what came to my mind, I had hard time saying no at work. I was put into multiple projects at once, and it was very overwhelming feeling for me. I was not sure if I'm productive and which one is my priority. So I had to have that hard conversation with my manager and set up those boundaries. Okay, what are my priorities? I cannot be at 8 places at once. So I fully get that. It's very important to have those boundaries and learn how to say no. So another question is coming to my mind: how to assess situations to determine what type of boundaries will keep you healthy and safe. Like in my case, I could understand, I need to learn how to say no, or, prioritize my task with the help of my manager. But there could be some situations when people don't understand. So, any insights on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally empathize with you, and I totally agree and understand what you're saying. And assessing situation to determine the like what type of healthy boundary will keep us, have a healthy and safe environment around us, and in family, at our workplace, everywhere. I mean, you can have these boundaries anywhere, any situation, any place with people. So, first of all, which I always understood to creating my healthy boundary was self awareness, that self reflection, and careful consideration of your needs, values, and personal limits. There's a time in your life you have to set those limits. So it's very very brief time we have on this earth plane. So we are here to grow. So here are some steps we can, it can help us in this process. So first, as I said, self reflection. Just start reflecting on your priorities, your values, what makes you feel comfortable and or uncomfortable in different situations. Like our goal in this lifetime is to be stay happy and peaceful. So consider your emotional, physical, mental, spiritual well-being, and identify those red flags you see, like triggers you see. Pay attention to situation or behavior that trigger your negative emotion, discomfort, and anxiety within you. So these could be signs that your boundaries are being violated. So that you need to establish clear boundaries. And then we can always define our personal boundaries in a different way. I mean, this could be physical boundaries, or as you said, emotional boundaries, or manipulative behavior that you will not tolerate. That you can define your personal boundaries, and in and we can communicate assertively. We don't have to be shy on that. I know it's very hard sometime at our workplace. Once you identify your boundaries, practice those assertive communication to express your needs and set limits clearly and respectfully. Communicate your boundaries to others involved in any situation. Make sure they understand and respect them. You try to communicate from your side, and pay attention to your emotions. If a situation consistently makes you feel very uncomfortable, it may be sign that your boundaries are being crossed. So it's important to address at that time. To for example, like you said, that boundaries with your friends might be different for those with the colleagues, or the like manager you said, or family members. So for different contexts and in different relationship may require a different type of boundaries. So we just need to assess the specific situation and relationship where we need to establish boundaries. And always remember, establishing and maintaining healthy boundary is an ongoing process. It's not like that, we put in a stone that, yeah, it's like written in a it's not like that. We can always change. And as you gain more experience and self-awareness, you may need to adjust your boundaries to ensure they continue to meet your needs. And you can always seek support if needed. If you are unsure that about establishing your boundaries, or you're facing challenges in maintaining boundaries, consider seeking support from a friend, family member, therapist, and they can provide guidance, help you process your feelings, and offer practical advice.
Wow, Vivek, so many wonderful insights you shared, and I'm sure our parents who are listening to this podcast, they are benefited, and even our teens for that matter, right? Because even teens, they go through a lot. Their bodies are changing. They are, trying to establish relationship. They are going to school, and maybe college, right? So they are meeting with so many new people, having so many things going on in their life. And as you said, that self-awareness, connection with your own self, seeing how are you feeling in the company of certain people. And if you don't feel comfortable, it's a good idea to talk to a trusted advisor and express. And if as you mentioned, seek help if you need to. And it I really like that point where you were saying it's ongoing process, right? It's not like once and done.
Yeah.
So but I'm sure, if suppose we did set up some boundaries and the other person is not abiding or respecting those boundaries. So, how do we identify? Can we set up some consequences also for others if they're crossing their boundaries?
Well, identifying like clear consequences for others who cross our healthy boundaries involve it. I mean, it's not hard or something that we are some putting something, becoming hard on somebody, and it involves like just, I'll say, communicating your boundaries effectively, and be like, just confirm on that, like be just stay solid, step on that. So some steps we can always use, some like tips we can use in our day-to-day life. Sometimes it's like very hard in some relationship to even to convey the boundaries. It's very challenging sometimes. So we can define silently, quietly also our boundaries. Reflect on your values, needs, as I said, and limits to determine what is healthy boundary for you. Like, you just need to consider various aspects of your life, such as relationship, time, personal space, and emotional well-being, and you can communicate your boundary clearly and assertively. Express your boundaries with people around you, like use I statement to convey your needs and expectations. For example, say, I need some alone time in the evenings to recharge, so I won't be available for phone calls or visits. I mean, maybe other person feel bad, but you should say, because you should set the boundary. And consequences in advance, we can make small, like, these consequences could be related to reducing contacts. Like if somebody is violating your boundaries, like limiting access to a certain aspect of life, or like expressing your dissatisfaction. So a few things like you can enforce, and you can communicate these consequences calmly also. When someone crosses your boundaries, calmly and assertively communicate the consequences they will face as a result. Avoid becoming aggressive or confronting them. Sometimes some people take it very negative way, so it may be escalate the situation. Clearly explain, very quietly, peacefully, silently, calmly, the connection between their action and the consequences, so they understand the impact of their behavior. And it's important to enforce those boundaries you set, the consequences you have established. And sometimes they are non-negotiable. Because you have has to prioritize your well-being. So make sure these they are reasonable and fair, avoiding any excessive or any like hard step you don't have to take. And always, if we don't understand, we can always take a support. If someone repeatedly crosses your boundary despite your communication or and enforcement of consequences, consider seeking support from trusted friends and family or professional counselor. And they can provide guidance, perspective, and assisting in handling difficult situation. So always remember, setting and maintaining boundary, as we say, that it's a it's an ongoing process. So you just keep on going with different relationship, different situation, and it may require some adjustment, refinement as you grow and encounter new experiences. So by respecting your own boundaries and holding other accountable, you promote healthy relationship, and we can cultivate a sense of self-worth and personal well-being.
Thank you, Vivek, explaining in detail. And I really like that idea of using I. Right? In my case, when I was talking to my manager, I said I would be productive if I have been given two projects instead of eight. So I clearly stated my needs And I was, yeah, calm, assertive. And I, in back of my mind, I had, made a plan. If he doesn't understand me, I will maybe move out to another group, right? So it's very important to first communicate, as you're saying, be respectful. And if, things are not working the way you were thinking, there is always a plan B, because your own well-being is very important. So thank you so much for, sharing your insights on this topic. It was wonderful to learn from you. Thank you so much again for spending time with us today.
Thank you, Punam, so much for having me.
You are listening to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation. As part of our youth series, we will be releasing new episodes every Friday, so make sure to continue to check those out. We hoped you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you so much for listening.